out more. And today we're going to find out more about the thriving chess community here in Mississippi. Yep, chess, that is the game. I didn't know that we had a Mississippi Chess Association, but one of our Good Things listener and one of the part of the association, Chris Baker, is here today to tell us a little more. So, hey, Chris.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm excited, number one, that you reached out and connected with me and understood what we try to do here on Good Things, which is to bring these unique stories. And number two, you realized that this conversation is a good fit here because I think it's cool that there are such a wide variety of Mississippians who are starting to connect to the game of chess. So, Chris, you said you were a later in life chess finder. So how did you get connected with the game?
Well, I started out as a kid. I played checkers like a lot of other people do. But and I always thought about learning how to play chess. But the game kind of intimidated me because it's perceived complexities, which I think a lot of other people can identify with. So I just didn't pick it up. So years went go by and everything, and eventually, my family, my wife and son, my son Aaron, when he was in the second grade in 2018. He was in the Wings Gifted class at Forest Elementary School. And, one day they made a makeshift chessboard out of construction paper, and the teacher gave him some pieces, so taught him how to play. Comes home and said, "Daddy, play chess with me." I don't know how to play. Well, we sat down, and he showed me how the pieces move and the general parameters of the game. I was hooked. That's
all it took for you, huh?
It just fell into place. And so now he's really good, and of course kids soak things up a lot easier than everything. So he's just really into it. But I guess he just explained it to me in such a way that it just kind of clicked, and I just fell in love with the game.
How old's your son now?
He's 11 now.
So I'm doing the math.
7.
So that's like the last, 4 or 5 years you guys have, or 4 years.
Something like that.
Math's hard, so it's chess.
Yeah.
So how did you find your way, though? It's one thing to pick up a fun game or board game with your child, especially if they've been introduced to it at school. But this has morphed into so much more for you, a mentorship, being part of the Mississippi Chess Association. Didn't even know we had one of those. So how did you find yourself sort of more in depth in what was going on here in Mississippi?
Well, right after I got into it and started playing with him for a little bit, and I got thinking this is so much fun, I wanted to share it with other people or try to find other people in Scott County where I live that also played or would like to play. So I connected with our Forest Public Library and asked them could we set up a club that would meet there and play. And they were all for it. The Central Mississippi Regional Library System, they're all for it. So we set it up, Scott County Chess Club. So we started meeting there on the first Saturday of each month, and went from there. And I just started, making it public about around in the community and say, hey, we got this chess club, and everybody's invited, all skill levels, all ages, come one, come all, and let's see what we can do with this.
And it blossomed from there.
Right.
So how many showed up for the first Saturday?
The first Saturday, I'm trying to think. We had about 10 or 15 people.
Really?
And, some kids with their parents came, and I did a PowerPoint presentation to show how displaying and along the way how the game works and everything based on what I'd learned so far and all. So, and things were, moving along, and then COVID hit. Oh. And the library shut down. That shut us down. And so we kind of waited it out. And this year in September, the library started back letting all of their programs come back. So we started up. Basically had to rebuild the club because a lot of people kind of fell away from it. But when we started coming back in September, it's been just, just rocking. And I don't know, maybe it was a blessing in disguise. And
Got folks back out there. You know, I'll have to say I am a chess novice, which I think plays well to our conversation today, Chris, because I assume to know nothing other than I will admit that my very first binge watching experience was the Queen's Gambit. I actually got a Netflix account because a friend recommended that series to me, and I had some free time, and I thought I would just watch one episode, and then
you can't watch just one episode.
You can't watch episode. And so I knew nothing about chess, but I walked away with a great appreciation. Obviously, it's a fictional story. I completely understand that. But I think the love of the game and sort of how it can transcend generations and bring, you can sit down with your kids and enjoy it. You can, you're both equal at the chess, I guess you call it table. And, board.
Chess board.
And I love that with it. So there has been this heightened, I guess, interest in the game. Do y'all feel that as well?
Definitely.
From that and other things, yeah.
Well, some people may have seen the movie Searching for Bobby Fischer.
Mm-hmm.
That came out some years ago, and that helped. And I still hear about it from time to time. People say, "Oh, I've seen that movie," but the Queen's Gambit raised the profile of chess to astronomical levels. I mean, it just blew it out of the water, I think, because the first month or so that it was on the air, it premiered. It came out on October the 23rd of last year.
Mm-hmm.
The first month it was out, it has over 64 million people worldwide watching it. Myself, I have lost count on how many times I've watched
Really?
it. I would binge it almost all the time. My son Aaron now believes he created the chess monster because But anyway, every time I turn around, I want to watch the episode one more time, or this or that.
So within the chess community, though, like in the Netflix show, I mean, are there magazines that teach you the different tactics or techniques or sort of skills like that? I mean, is there like a whole community? I'm sure it really thrives online, being the fact that it's a real niche sort of market. But I mean, do y'all share techniques? Is it kind of? I mean, because it feels like it would be mental gymnastics. I mean, it's maneuvering.
Definitely.
Like football has to have their plays. You have to have your plays.
Definitely. It's a little bit of that. One thing, the great thing about chess is that when I grew up mainly in the 70s and 80s coming up. And where I'm from, back then, if you wanted to learn chess, you either found someone who knew it or found a book. And now we have the internet, and there's so many resources, magazines, books, internet tutorials. There's all kinds of ways. And we have clubs all over the state. And you can there's a club near, not too far, that you can come and meet people, and someone will show you how the game is played and get you into it.
It's extremely intimidating, Chris. I will have to say, I'm full throttle. I'm a checkers girl because I get it. When I look at your chessboard, which if they are watching over at SuperTalk TV, they will notice that you brought your chessboard with you. Number one, it's a beautiful game, right? I mean, It's got the gorgeous sort of pieces. It feels like there's going to be a dance within it. It's completely different than just your little checkers or any other sort of game. So there is this like intimidation to sit down and then feel kind of silly if you don't know what to do. But you're saying if you can at least get past that, most people get hooked.
I think so. Once you learn how the pieces move, how they move, where they can move to, the general parameters of what you can or can't do. After that is whatever it's like, almost like anything else. It's whatever you want to make it, how much you want to put into it, how much.
It's the only game, too, where the queen is top dog, right?
Well, she's the most powerful piece, but the king is your most valued. I mean, the king is the center.
Watch what you say.
That's what you're protecting, because when you lose your king, you get checkmated, the game is over. You lost.
But
she's your most powerful piece. She can move anywhere on the board, any number of spaces that are open, in any direction. So you lose your queen, you're handicapped a little bit, but sometimes you can lose your queen and you take the other person's queen, and it's equal again.
So what are the names of the other pieces?
Okay, you've got your pawn. Well, first of all, you're talking about a 64 square board. A board with 64 spaces on it, and each player has 16 pieces. Your first row is a row of pawns. All right. And then you have your rook. You have 2 rooks, one on each end of the back row. You have your knight. Now, some people call it, oh, that's the horse. We call it a knight.
Oh, yes, sir. Well, we're going to call a pause just one second, and we're going to come back with Chris Baker and learn more about where we're finding out more about chess in Mississippi and how it's thriving, and more people are getting interested in playing the game. Joining with us here on Good Things is Chris Baker, who runs the Scott County Chess Club. But I just love this. I love everything about it. So we paused you. You were starting to talk about the fact, the board and some of the pieces. So I don't want to mess you up there. So go back to where you were talking about it's not a horse. No, it's a knight.
That's right. We left it off with the knight, and then there's the bishop. You have 2 of those. You have 2 rooks, 2 knights, and 2 bishops. You have the queen, and you have the king. And from there, white always moves first in the game to start the game. A pawn can move 1 space forward or 2 space forwards on the first move, but after that, he can only move 1 space forward. He also goes only straight forward. The only times he can go diagonal is he's going to capture a piece.
So the ultimate goal of chess is to be mental gymnastics aware enough to take the king.
Right. The objective is to put the checkmate the king, which means the king cannot move anywhere without getting captured.
And so, Rano, you were sharing that this was, during the break, used internationally or back in the day as strategy for warfare, to teach warfare.
Oh, yeah, because it's basically a game of war. You have all these pieces that have different roles to play in a battle between the teams, and in war, you have different people with different roles to play in the battle between the sides.
Right. The one of the pieces is... Well, all the back row pieces are powerful. Like you have your knight, it goes 2 spaces one way and 1 space over. It's the only piece that can jump over other pieces.
It's a horse.
Right, it's the knight, right. Now, the bishop moves on the diagonal, any direction, any number of squares, they're open. And the queen, like I mentioned earlier,
she can go
anywhere, any direction, any number of spaces, they're open. And the same thing on the other side. And the king can only move 1 space in any direction at a time. And again, like I said, when like say right here, the queen now has the king in check. That means he has to move somewhere
to another
to get out of check to a safe spot. If he can't, the game is over. He's checkmated.
We had someone on our C-Spire text line, Chris, John, and Corinth, say 4 moves, checkmate. And so I can see where this now is. You get in a game with yourself. You try to see how quickly can you take it out. You use, different sort of techniques or probably, strategies within your own head. And I can get where this becomes a game of something you can go back and try to learn or think through and sort of get better at. But what are some of the other benefits of chess? I mean, to find it at any age of life or to be able to start it as young as 2nd grade, I mean, there's got to be other kind of benefits, whether you checkmate all the time or not, that you get from it.
Well, I'll start by saying personally, it's like getting a mental workout. There have been several times when Aaron and I would play on a given evening before he goes to bed. The next morning at work, I just feel a more defined focus. It's like I got a mental workout in the gym, And it's incredible the feeling it can give you depending on how much you play. But it improves concentration and memory, according to studies that have been done on it. It enhances reading and math skills and being able to count and navigate the board. It fosters logic and critical thinking and creativity because you're constantly trying to think several moves ahead and seeing if I do this, he'll do that. But he might do this, so I got to be ready for it. I mean, all kinds of different variations and strategies. Encourages reward for hard work And I mean, it's just, well, that's like anything. But the more you practice, the more you work at it, the better you're going to get if you really stay faithful to it.
So if you have a newcomer to the Scott County Chess Club, or maybe to the Mississippi Chess Association, like me, or someone else who doesn't know, do y'all take it easy on the newbies at all? Because I feel like when I try to teach my daughter, my husband and I have two different routes of teaching games when it comes to checkers. I let her win a little bit so she gains some confidence, and my husband's like, goes after full force every single time and doesn't give the little girl, sort of a chance. Although she's getting better, and even with tic-tac-toe, it's the same exact scenario.
Yeah,
so do you kind of help them out so they don't feel like they just drowned every game?
It's probably yes. It depends on who you're working with and everything, because it's two different schools of thought. You want a person, you don't want to ease them into it because can be complex. You don't want to scare them away and overwhelm a young person. But you also want to show them that when they make a move, that's another benefit. You learn the consequences of your actions. There's the equal and opposite reaction. You make the move to the right piece, and there's a consequence to every move you make. And the player needs to learn that and understand and accept everything they do. They have to think before they act, and in every way imaginable.
Maybe we should be teaching this in all second grades.
That would be good.
I love your shirt there, Chris. If they're watching, life is full of important choices, which I guess you're right. That translates right down to the game of chess. Now, the Mississippi Chess Association, you just had your annual state tournament, Chris, but right. I know you have new clubs coming up all the time, or maybe someone who's listening to Good Things thinks, I would really love a club in my area. Is there a way to be proactive like you were in Scott County?
Well, yes. The Mississippi Chess Association has a website that has a list of the clubs. So we have clubs in close to everywhere around the state. We got one in Biloxi, Meridian. The Capital City Chess Club here in our metro area meets on every Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 in the food court of the Outlet Mall in Pearl. And so there's one there in this area. We got one in Picayune, Vicksburg, and ours in Scott County. Tupelo has one. Actually, we had some publicity for our state tournament, and WLBT came out and featured us. A guy in Natchez saw that report, drove over to Ridgeland to the second day of our tournament, say, hey, I want to start a club.
That's awesome.
So, I mean,
we want someone to do that here on Good Things. We want to bring chess to all 82 counties of Mississippi. I think it's a great community builder and camaraderie skill. I go back to, I love that all ages and stages of life can sit down and enjoy an activity together. What does it take to start a club? Well,
first of all, of course, it varies according to where you are and what resources you have. In my case, I'm kind of a newbie to it to begin with, and it's just, I guess, my nature just to jump in and do it. But you start by looking for people in your community that have an interest in the game, either already playing or interested in learning how. And you just put out the word, by local media, put something in local newspaper and say, hey, look, would you come to so-and-so place at so-and-so time? Let's talk about starting a chess club. And from there, you just word of mouth, just get the word out. First of all, it's always good to find a place, preferably free, a place you can gather. In our case, it was a local public library. And
because usually if you're not making money off of the club in any way, your library is always a good resource to allow community things like that.
And it's quiet.
And they're quiet.
It's quiet, which is important. It's a quiet, I mean, you need that. And
if they want to reach out to you, Chris, I know you mentioned Facebook pages and things of that nature. How can they get in touch with you if they would just like to walk through it a little bit more, or maybe join your club there in Scott County?
Well, for us, Scott County Chess Club, all spelled out, at gmail.com. Is how you can email us there. I also want to mention that there's another club on the coast that's looking to get started, and Ole Miss and State have university clubs there. So, but it's just, like I said, you just jump in and do it, get the word around, and do what you can, and just take it one step at a time. Try not to do too much too quick. I have to kind of hold myself back. Say I get so excited about something, I want to go full blast. I say, hold on, just calm down and take it easy. But because this past weekend I hosted our first tournament in Scott County, and that was a phenomenal success.
Well,
so I'm really happy.
Congratulations on that. And again, going back to life is full of important choices, and you can learn that game through the game of chess. I love your passion for it, Chris, so we'll have to get you back on the show and maybe with a younger chess enthusiast.
I do want to kind of mention one more thing. There is a big thing about chess in schools. The Mississippi High School Activity Association recognizes chess as an activity, which means teachers can get stipends to being a coach and a mentor. So we're really hoping to get some schools. We have 22 schools around the state that already got chess teams. So that's something that local schools can talk to your local high schools and school districts and see if you can get something started.
All righty, good things up next.